Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this virtual live community meeting on Wheatley. Participants may submit questions in the comments section. While we try to answer as many questions as we can, but based on time parameters, not all questions will be answered. However, we will attempt to respond to your questions in the comments section in the coming days. With us, we have Chatham-Kent Mayor Darren Caniff, West Kent Councillor Melissa Harrigan, Chief Administrative Officer Don Shropshire, Fire Chief Chris Case, Community and Human Services General Manager April Rydek, Thomas Kelly, our General Manager of Infrastructure and Engineering, as well as we have Anne Marie Thomas from the Insurance Bureau of Canada. Jeff Wilkins from the Chatham-Kent Legal Services Clinic will be joining us. Jennifer Barton, Assistant Deputy Minister from the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry, as well as Lauren Anderson from the Active Citizens of Wheatley and Kim Grant from the Wheatley BIA. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll start with a brief update from Don Shropshire.
So this is Darren Caniff. I'll just say a few words, then I'll pass it over to Don. I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. I know this has been an extremely difficult time for everyone in Wheatley. My heart goes out to everyone who isn't able to be in their home or operate their business right now. We're here to provide an update on what we know and listen to your questions and concerns. We may not have all the answers, but we are committed to helping the community get through this situation and come out stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I just also should acknowledge that Councillor Oche is currently in Wheatley doing a fundraiser for the relief effort. He had already made some commitments, so I just wanted the listeners, especially the residents of Wheatley, to know that he's very much with us today in spirit, but he had made that other commitment in response to the current events. Jennifer Barton from the province is trying to log in. She's had some technical issues, but she should be with us shortly. A number of the questions we received talked about the history and how did we get to the point we're at right now. So I'm going to do a brief recap and hopefully answer several of the questions that people had. If there's additional questions, we'll try and dive deeper and try and give you the answers you need. So I'll start off by saying that safety needs to be our primary concerns at this time. We're still during an emergency situation. Several investigations have already started or are underway right now. And we do recognize that this is the third event that's happened within a 3-month period. So we are being very cautious. We don't know whether we're going to have a reoccurrence or not, but caution is definitely warranted to maintain safety of our residents and responders. So if we have a concrete answer, we'll provide it for you. There's some questions about whether we're going to be transparent. We will give you all of the answers that we have. That's the purpose of this meeting. We recognize there's lots of questions people have today. I want to also share that our understanding is that the investigation of the source of the H2S gas will be a process of elimination. Potential sources will be explored and either confirmed or ruled out. This process could take several days or even months, depending on how long it takes to find the source. We have done some preliminary, there have been some preliminary investigations, and there's a high probability it might be a gas well, but to be really candid, we do not know that with certainty. And until we do, you really can't determine what the next steps are going to be. So we will take as much time as needed to do that safely, but we are also recognizing that the residents do not want another occurrence. There's already been huge disruptions, and we want to make sure that's going to be taken care of. How could we let this happen is something that we've heard a number of times. We tried to manage this issue with public safety as our main priority, and to this end, we have evacuated 3 times. The first emergency evacuation was on June the 3rd. The day after the H2, that's when we made our first emergency declaration. June the 2nd was when we had the first gas detected. We had no idea at that time whether it would be a single event or if it would return. Once we had had gas readings, no gas readings for a period of 3 weeks, the declaration of an emergency was rescinded on June the 28th. We basically said, we have no more reason right now to keep people out of their homes and so on. And we thought at the time, based on the best advice we'd received, that it was a reasonable thing to do. We reported to the community in our public meeting at that time that we could not confirm that the situation was safe, only that we had not detected gas for over 3 weeks. And we didn't feel that we could keep a mandatory evacuation zone in place in the absence of an imminent emergency. But we provided cautions to the community, worked with property owners to do gas monitoring, and provided information for people in the immediate area. After the H2S gas, or the hydrogen sulfide gas, was detected again, a second emergency declaration was made on July the 19th. Since the second incident, we have maintained the emergency declaration on the building that had exploded, 15 Erie Street North, the former site of the Pogue. We have been also had gas monitoring systems in place ever since the occurrence of the event in June. We had both the property owner and also the municipality, with some financial support from the provincial government, had maintained 24 hours, 7 day a week gas monitoring. And that was for the express purpose of ensuring public safety. It was this gas monitoring that really supported a timely evacuation. The two gas monitoring systems were triggered on August the 26th. That gave our fire services a chance to move to the scene and evacuate people. And we are confident that that actually saved lives. So if there's a good news story in that, is that those precautions worked. And although there were some serious injuries, there was no casualties. And we're thankful for that. We didn't know then, and we still don't know now, what the origin of the gas was. The province has committed to supporting this effort by contracting technical experts tasked with finding the origin of the hydrogen sulfide gas and making recommendations how it can be mitigated. As we move forward, we're going to continue to keep safety at the forefront, and we ask for the continued patience of the community. We recognize that this has been a huge impact on residents and business owners, and we'll do our best to address it. I'll conclude that with my comments, and I'm sure we'll get to more detailed questions in a moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. We'll now move on to questions that were submitted ahead of time. The first question is from Wendy, and I believe this might be a question you can answer, Don. Wendy says, I'm concerned about the amount of traffic on our residential streets by bypassing the village core. Can we get some policing on our residential streets to protect our residents while walking and cycling, or even pulling out of our driveway? The traffic and speed has increased considerably.
Okay. Wendy, I'd ask, and any other the listeners, if you have specific concerns on your street, I'd ask you to send those into the municipality. We'll make sure that that's made. We share that information with police services. We have had, and there continues to be police presence in Wheatley surrounding the evacuation site. And if there needs to be additional monitoring on those issues, we'll make the commitment to share that with the police services so that can take place.
Thanks, Don. While we wait for Jennifer to join us, we have another question here that I think you might be able to help us with. It's from Margaret. She says, we're currently displaced, and she's wanting to know, our background is going to be cleaned up by someone from the town or city before we're able to get back. We are concerned considering we have 2 young children who are always playing outside with the neighborhood children.
So some of the, I'm going to ask my colleagues to help out with this, but some of the cleanup on the site of the explosion actually took place this week with the investigation of the Ontario Fire Marshal's office. There was a debris field that extended beyond just the site of that property, and there will be efforts made with the support of our public works and others to actually clean up the site. At this time, the Ontario Fire Marshal's office just cleared the site of their investigation last night, and so now we're in a position where the site will be available to do cleanup activities and so on. But we're going to have to continue to rely on technical experts as to what we can move and what we can't move, because we still don't know the source of that H2S gas, and we don't want to do any activities without that technical expertise, because we want to make sure that we're going to stay on site and keep things safety in the community. But we will make the commitment that as soon as it's safe to do so, we will be cleaning up the site. Thomas, or anything else to add?
No, that's very
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Another question that was submitted ahead is from Nellie, and I believe this one is for you, Jennifer. Jennifer has been able to join us now. Again, Jennifer is the Assistant Deputy Minister for the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources, and Forestry. Jennifer, Nellie would like to know, have you located the leak? Are you able to fix the leak, and will it be safe to go home anytime soon? Jennifer, are you able to hear us? She might be experiencing some more issues.
Amy, I will start and say that this is Don Shropshire again. We have not identified the source of the leak.
Apologies, I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. I'm getting a little bit of feedback on my end.
We can hear you now, Jennifer.
Please proceed, Jennifer. Don, maybe you could continue.
Again, sorry, we do not know
Sorry,
the.
Just confirming if you're able to hear me.
We can hear you. The source of the gas is going to be explored on a step-by-step basis. There are a number of gas wells that are expected to be in the immediate area, and that information is on the historical references of the ministry files. And they'll be looking at the most probable of those cases and just working through them. It will require that we work with the private property owners, and I expect that sort of contact will be made this week so that we can confirm plans. But yet we have definitely not determined the site of the source of the gas leak.
I'm sorry, Don. It appears that we've lost Jennifer again.
Okay.
In the meantime, there is a question from Roger and Mary Jane.
Amy,
yes.
I think Thomas has something to add to the last question.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy. It's Thomas Kelly. I'm the General Manager of Infrastructure and Engineering Services. We've tried to send a message out to all residents that if they have any knowledge of any gas wells, any pictures, any memories even of where these wells were located, and this is primarily behind 15 Erie Street North and behind the car barn and the nail salon is in that area. We're looking for any local knowledge that may say that, yes, I remember it being right here. One of the challenges we have is the records are very old, and determining the exact location of where that wellhead is has been a challenge for us. If any members of the community have that information, we ask that they call 311 or they can email ck311@chatham-kent.ca. Again, that's ck311@chatham-kent.ca. We've had some residents already reach out to us, and it's been very helpful. I wanted to thank everyone for that. And it helps us with our investigation to determine our next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Again, this next question, while we wait for the ministry to return, Stephanie would like to know, she's currently evacuated from her apartment and she has some basic concerns. If they're able to move back into their homes next week, can we ensure the safety of our family? Could you maybe address the question about being able to move back into their homes next week, Don?
I think Chief Case would like to speak to that.
Chief?
Thank you. Good morning. I think there will be nobody moving back to their homes next week. As firefighters, we like to have solid information. We like to know what's going on. And in this circumstance, we just don't know. So we're waiting for the investigations and the technical advice to come in and tell us exactly what is going on site. I cannot give any indication of when people will be able to return back to the evacuation zone. And that is the only answer I can give at this time.
The other person that might be able to offer some assistance is April Reed-Dyke. April and her team are providing assistance, and April, perhaps you could tell people how they could contact you and your team and how we could help them work through some of those issues.
Sure. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Chief Case. So we have, from Community Human Services, we have our Employment and Social Services staff have been at the arena really since Thursday night. They are there again today from 10 until 2. They will be at the arena daily from 10 till 2 for the foreseeable future. They are available to assist any Wheatley residents with some of those immediate needs. Things like food, clothing, shelter, if anyone is still looking at where are they going to stay, helping individuals in terms of refilling prescriptions, looking at the need of getting new identification, any pet issues, any number of things the team's able to help out with. If they are general questions, and we can get these numbers out and get them out on the website, but for general questions, certainly 311 is a great place to start. Our 519-360-1998 as well. And then our social services line for anyone that needs a bit more information is 519-351-8573. And so I think that as we navigate through this, needs will actually change. So while you may have shelter right now, you might be staying with a friend, you might be staying with family, sometimes those things change. And our team can help you navigate through that. They've got lots of information. We have had an outpouring of support from the community and surrounding communities. So we do have a significant amount of gift cards that we are able to assist people to kind of refill fridges, to help get us through with some meal cards, lots of things available at the reception center. So we can also help navigate through those longer term issues. So for individuals who are going to be out of their homes for quite some time, we can link them up, whether that is navigating through getting them to their insurance, getting them to our legal clinic, assisting them with housing, depending on income levels. So lots of work can be done with individuals. And I would encourage anyone to attend the reception center. We've had over 150 households come through already. So the team's there ready to assist.
Thank you, April. I'm going to switch from questions that were submitted ahead of time to some of the questions that are on our live feed. Before I ask one particular question, Tammy has placed a comment, and I was just hoping if Tammy Lucas could please elaborate on her location so I could ask her question. But there's a few people, Leslie and Miss Ray would like to know, and this question would be for Don, will there be a reduction in our property taxes?
So honestly, we have not turned our mind to that question yet. I had a conversation with our chief financial officer and treasurer last week. They are looking or exploring at the types of financial supports and relief that we can offer to residents and business owners that have been evacuated. But that work has not been completed yet. The focus so far has really just been on the emergency phase, where we're trying to identify the source of the explosion and figure out, how we can safely navigate over the next several days. But the commitment I'll make to you is that administration is looking at that. There is an expectation that we brought to council for consideration, as we've done in previous efforts, but there's no specifics available right now.
Thank you, Don. Dave online would like to know, will all buildings in the blast range be inspected for structure?
The expectation is our chief building official will work with the technical experts to safely inspect the buildings. There's a number of different things. If people that have seen the site or seen pictures of the site will recognize that in addition to the buildings that had catastrophic damage, there are a number of buildings that were in the blast radius that might have structural damage. Our chief building official will be responsible for working with the technical advisors and determining how he can safely go in and inspect. It really comes back to another question that several people had about, can I get into my homes even for 5 minutes to try and pick up, whether it's identification or something else that's, important that they left without. Any of those types of decisions would have to be informed by the technical experts that would have to determine, is there any structural damage that would pose a risk to people going into the house? Or is there a possibility that when the explosion happened, there might have been new pathways for the gas that, where the gas wasn't found previously, it might be in some of those other areas. So that's some of the challenges we're having with allowing people to go back into their house in a short period of time. What commitment we'll make is that that'll be a question that we'll work with the technical experts that are being supported by the provincial government, and we will try and identify when it's safe to do so. As soon as it's safe to do so, we'll try and provide access. But right now, we are absolutely not in a position to make that commitment because we really don't know what the current risks are. And that's part of the challenge we're having right now.
Thank you, Don. A pre-submitted question from Adam, and I believe this would be a question for Jennifer to be able to assist us with. What was the date and time that the investigation was handed over to the ministry, and exactly what was done from that moment up to the minute our village was rocked by this life-threatening explosion?
So hopefully you're able to hear me now. Excellent. Thanks, Don.
Yeah.
So thanks, Adam, for the question. And just maybe before I answer it, I did want to appreciate the invite in terms of being here today and the opportunity to share some information and speak directly with members of the Wheatley community. I did have the chance to visit Wheatley on Monday, and I did see for myself the huge impact this event has had on the community. And so I understand the urgency and the concerns for safety, and have had the opportunity to work very closely with the municipality over the last couple of months, as well as this week as we're working through some of these details. In terms of Adam's question, Adam, obviously the ministry became aware and started working with the municipality in early June when Chatham-Kent did declare the state of emergency related to the gas leak. We've been involved since then, so we've done a number of things, including providing funding to the municipality to monitor the hydrogen sulfide levels. And we've been, as has been shared already, we've been working directly with the municipality around providing the technical advice and guidance through a third-party consultant who has expertise, experience in this area. So I don't have a step-by-step timeline in front of me. But I can assure you that our work with Chatham-Kent did start in June. Again, continue to work through the identification of gas in July, and as I said, we've been working closely with the municipality since last Thursday, and will continue to work directly with the municipality and with the third-party experts as we move forward.
Thank you, Jennifer. Another question submitted online, and I believe this is a question that Jeff will be able to help us with. His question is, residents that pay rent in the hot zone, are they required to continue to pay rent while being evacuated?
For right now, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, for right now, I wouldn't pay your rent. We're not quite sure what is going on. Unfortunately, this is kind of a situation depending on what your unit, what condition it's in. What I would suggest is if you do have any questions, either get a hold of the legal clinic at 351-6771 or get a hold of one of April's team, she has a direct number to our clinic, and we have put one staff on full-time to try to work through these challenges. So because it is a case-by-case scenario, please get a hold of the clinic or one of April's teams, and I will get in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I believe this question may be for Jennifer or Don. Terry would like to know, why has most of our police presence been replaced with security? Do we need our streets better moderated right now, especially with school buses starting next week? Don, you are Mike. There you go.
Thank you. The police presence was reconsidered this week. There are still a minimum of 2 officers that are in the Wheatley area, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to provide police presence. But there were at one time as many as 5 or 6 police services officers, and that represents a significant expense. So the police were, they needed to be there if people were, needing to or wanting to enter the evacuation zone. They'd have to, exercise some of the authorities they have to stop that. But for the most part, the security staff have been put on the barricades where there's been a no drive zone, and we felt that was a more cost-effective way for the service to take place. I also want to let you know that we have gotten some feedback about some of the discussions with the security staff, and we've tried to do a better job educating them as to what some of the challenges are of our staff and providing better information so that they can do a referral. People have expressed some concern about that, so we're trying to do our best. We recognize that a number of our residents are having some real struggles, and we're trying to make sure that the answers you get reflect that we understand that. We're trying to provide you with some support. So for anybody that had that experience, I apologize, but we're trying to do better and up our game and make people aware of some of the things you're dealing with and how we can better provide support.
Thank you, Don. This is another question that possibly for yourself and Jennifer. We all can hear the frustration in people's voices and in their comments. So Terry, so I'll combine these 2 questions. Terry's wanting to know, why was it not a priority to start finding the leak after the first leak instead of putting a Band-Aid on it? And I'll combine that with Brian saying the M&R is leading the investigation as to the source of the gas, which is suspected abandoned well. Once this well is located, who is paying to plug or fix the well of the M&R or the property owner that the well is located on? And will the insurance company be covering the cost? A lot, not one question. So maybe
Okay, so let me see if we can unpack it a little bit. So first of all, we don't know the source of the gas leak. So there's been several references to a gas well. That is a probable cause based on previous, experience, but no one knows that for sure. So we have to be careful about what we're saying is the definite cause or not. We've tried to take a number of steps like gas sampling and so on, where we shared that information with the investigators, but they still have to go through and identify what the source of the leak is. It could be something that's percolating naturally up through the mantle of the earth. So put that aside for a minute. With respect to the investigation, when we had the first event in June, we reached out to a number of technical experts, and the advice that we received at that time is this could be a one-off event where it's basically you get a increased pressure of gas. They literally called it a gas burp, and the gas is released, and then you might never have another occurrence. In fact, we were told that it was not recommended that we go digging or searching for things at that time because you actually might create other types of problems. So again, we tried to do our best in terms of looking at best practices, but that's what we were informed at the time. When we had the second event in July, that's when we doubled down, and the ministry at that time started working with trying to find other technical experts. Because one of the things we've been upfront about is the municipality has a responsibility for emergency response, and a huge shout out to Chief Case and not just our firefighters, but we've had a number of municipal staff that have been working literally since June on this event. And but their expertise is really sort of making sure that people are moved out of harm's way and that they're safe. We don't really have the expertise for trying to deal with situations where there's hydrogen sulfide gas or trying to find the source or what would remedy that. And that's where Jennifer's support has been appreciated, that they're trying to work with, I'll let Jennifer speak to it, but try and find a technical expert that can help guide that part of the work. So Jennifer, let me pass it to you.
Yeah, thanks, Don. And let me as well echo some of the comments you made. I've been completely impressed by the way the community has, been managing the situation. I think the leadership that I'm seeing from not only the mayor and council, but Don and his entire team, and especially the local fire department and the support from the Windsor Hazmat group has been very impressive. And we're feeling quite happy to see that they've been doing everything they need to be doing on the site at this point. I think Don answered a lot of the questions. Maybe a few things I would add. I think it is important, as Don said, to note that we still don't know what the origin of this gas is. And it is a complicated situation. It is under, the downtown core of the municipality. And it will take some work by those technical experts to determine where that gas is coming from and what recommendations they have to mitigate risks. So the municipality and the province will continue to work together. Public safety and the protection of Ontario's community is absolutely a top priority for the province, and I know it is for the municipality of Chatham-Kent as well. And really all I can do is reconfirm our commitment to supporting the municipality in identifying the actions that we need to take as we move forward, and the provincial government will be here with the municipality to help address the situation.
Thanks. There parts of that question, I believe, also dealt with who pays. And quite frankly, we don't know. It'll depend on what's the cause of the leak. And then there's a whole bunch of different avenues that have to be discussed. It could be a combination of government support. It could be insurance. It could be some element of private property owners. I mean, we don't know yet. It really does depend on what the source is. And the commitment I'll make to you is that we're trying to explore every avenue to make sure that the financial support is available, not only to deal with the emergency, but also to make sure that we're rebuilding the community. And that's something the mayor spoke to in his opening comments.
Thank you, Don. Nancy submitted a question earlier and wanted to know, can we expect full transparency from the municipality about the situation?
Yes.
Okay. We'll then move on to some of our YouTube questions. Dan would like to know, who are the technical experts? Do we have that information yet, Don or Jennifer?
Jennifer, I'm going to ask if you can take that question. I'm not sure what the status of your contract is. So.
Yeah, it's a good question, and thanks for asking. So we are working with a large third-party company. As this has, transpired quickly, we are just in the final stages of finalizing procurement with them. However, I will say they've been on site all week and have been very helpful. I think at this time I will hold on releasing their names just as we're, as I said, we're just about to finalize some procurement documents with them. But we will share, as soon as that's all complete, we will share that information with the municipality, and they can distribute that information at that point.
Thank you, Jennifer. Another question submitted on Facebook, this one from Derek. This might be a question that Chief Case might be able to help us with. If there is gas vapor in air, what is the risk of digging with excavators? What are the risks if they cause a spark, if there are any chances of igniting the gas?
Thank you. Well, yes, there is. There is always a risk when there's gas in the air. So from Thursday evening, when the provincial hazmat team arrived, the first thing that they did was to put gas detectors around the perimeter. And when gas was discovered to be reaching the perimeter of the zone, that's why the evacuation was pushed back and more people were evacuated from their homes. Right now, we have been working through the week with the Office of the Fire Marshal, who brought their own engineers and experts to scene. We've had some assistance from the engineering group that Jennifer referred to, and we still have the provincial hazmat team on scene. There has been firefighters, paramedics and hazmat teams on scene 24 hours a day since the incident last Thursday. In the event, and there's some very, very closely controlled procedures on scene for dealing with this. So in the event that there is a reading of gas, and again, at the moment, we have no gas readings on site, but in the event that we have gas readings, there is an evacuation of the site and everybody is accounted for. And we continue to have intervention teams from the Fire and Rescue Service stood by in case of any eventuality. But again, we're dealing with a situation where we simply do not know what is causing the gas, when it will come back, and what would be the outcome if it does come back, but we're working with the best people to try and work that problem out.
Thank you, Chief. This next question, I'll turn to April. So there's a few comments and questions about basic necessities. Basically, is there any idea when Circle K or the Dollar Haven will be opening up so that people are able to buy things like milk? Would you be able to maybe share again the information of what people can do for basic necessities and what phone numbers or where they can go for assistance, please?
Sure. Thanks, Amy. A great question. We have been working, and we also have Lauren and Kim on the line that will be able to help me out as well. But we have been working with the BIA, the Wheatley Active Citizens Group, and the Wheatley Area Food Bank. And so we are in the process of kind of working together to bring things like milk and eggs and some of those staples that certainly people need to the food bank. The food bank's just relocated to 108 Talbot Road East. And certainly we can get those hours out to people, but if anybody has any immediate needs of those essentials, like I said, we have gift cards. We have the ability to mobilize people that can assist if anyone is homebound and can't get out. Even folks relocated to outside the evacuation zone, certainly give us a call. Or come to the arena and one of our case managers can assist. So again, I would encourage anyone to reach out to me and my team, and we will do our best to get whatever those necessities are to them. So I don't know if Lauren and Kim have anything to add to that. But
Yeah.
certainly we are at the arena again from 10 to 2 today, Sunday, Monday, and we'll be there as long as it's needed.
Yes, so currently, like April said, we've moved the food bank to the Proactive Gym. Susan Fulmer is in charge of that. We're working with the Renwicks to set up a refrigerated section at the Mercer's gas station to hold things like milk and eggs and other dairy items. Myself and Lauren have been working together on the GoFundMe and the cash donations. I will be setting up a common account that will be able to help people with cash for groceries and things that they cannot get from the food bank.
I can speak a little bit further on that too. This is Lauren Anderson. Our stance with meeting with everyone for family services and the crisis team is that, Chatham-Kent has been fairly diligent in making sure that the basic needs of everyone is met. And our common goal for everyone is that we want to encourage Chatham-Kent to continue with that responsibility and then be able to utilize the money that we are fundraising for once these people are actually back in their homes before their insurance can kick in. And if there's a deductible that needs to be paid and they're having difficulty with that. But at this point, there is an emergency crisis number for any residents that are displaced. It's 519-351-8573. And that takes you right to the family assistance. You let them know that you're from Wheatley and you're currently displaced from your home. And they will provide you with any needs that you have immediately. And then we're also in constant contact with them. So if it is something that they can't meet, then they contact Kim or myself and we carry out the remainder of those needs.
Thank you, Lauren and Kim. Before we step away from this topic, I want to just bring April back, and maybe amongst the three of you can answer this question. Janet from Facebook would like to know, is there any way to donate to the food bank or other clothing, for example?
Sorry, Amy, can you repeat that? I got to the donate part and then I lost you.
So Janet on Facebook would like to know, is there any way to donate to the food banks or to other items such as clothing?
So it's a great question. Thanks. We will certainly look at donations, and certainly Lauren and Kim can fill you in on how to do that if they are financial donations. The food bank obviously accepts food donations. We do have clothing donations coming in, and we are working out those final details as to where will we put those. And what will we do with them, and how will we get them out to residents. But what you can email, if you've got some of those specific questions, I would email the food bank. So that is info@wheatley-area-food-bank.ca, and they will certainly help navigate as well. We don't have a huge amount of space there. There's enough for what we need to do. We're trying to set up a bit of a community hub so that we will all be able to work out of the same location. And so again, Lauren and Kim, anything to add to that?
Yes, I know the Renwicks are trying to get another semi-truck trailer to hold the clothing and other household donations. So that's in the works now. And once we get that set up, we certainly will put it on our Facebook pages. As far as checks or cash, people can contact me through Facebook. I'll share my phone number, 519-322-9746. And I will make arrangements to pick up the cash or checks that will go into that common account.
Yes. Also, if anyone would like to go through the GoFundMe, you can donate straight to that link. And also, I'm available to be contacted, 519-818-3579.
Well, I know there's been a lot of numbers and contact information being shared today, and for the benefit of the listeners, we will do our best to try and collect all of that information and include it on the distribution. We have a daily, literally a daily distribution that goes up to any residents in Wheatley that want to receive an update email. We'll also make sure it's posted on our municipal website. There's on the front page of the landing site, there's a special box that contains a link to all of the information related to the Wheatley relief effort. So we'll make sure that's there as well, so you have an easier reference.
Thank you, Don. Just want to thank those that are watching for their patience as I try to manage questions being asked from YouTube, Facebook, and pre-submitted questions. But along that same theme, Lisa is wanting to know, why is it taking so long to inform residents? So you mentioned some of the ways that we're trying to keep people informed. Maybe, Don, you could remind people that there is the ability to sign up for the Wheatley residents information, but could you maybe address that question?
People can call directly into our 311. It'll link you with our customer service representatives for the municipality, and they will take steps to put your contact information on the distribution list, so you'll get the daily updates. Thomas also provided the email address for that site. That was, Chad, could you just do the 311 email address again, Thomas?
Yeah, CK311@chatham-kent.ca. That's CK311@chatham-kent.ca.
So that's the easiest way to get on board. We are trying to do regular updates because people are dispersed. If you don't have an answer to your question, please call into the customer service representatives, and they'll track down the person that has an answer for you, and we'll try and get you information back. We are trying to share it as quickly as it becomes available.
Thank you, Don. I'm going to bring Jennifer back into the stream. I think we're all very much aware of the frustration that our residents in Wheatley are feeling. Again, similar questions being posed. So Jennifer, this one you might be able to help with. Stephanie would like to know, what parameters need to be in place in order to allow us back in our homes? And what financial support will be put in place if we are displaced in the long term? This is not sustainable to pay a mortgage and rent.
In fairness, Jennifer, we'll take part of that as well. If you want to add anything, and then we'll add in.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah, I guess in terms of the first part of the question, when would it be safe to go back into your home? So the challenge with answering that question is we just don't know the source of the gas yet. So as we work through what that source of the gas is, that will provide us a lot more information. Said our technical experts are on site, and they are working closely with the municipality and doing their work to identify the source of the gas, and they will work with us then to develop that plan for returning as well as mitigating the source of the gas. So I can't answer with much more information at this point, but as soon as we know the source and the next steps, we will, again, work closely with municipality to share that with all of you.
Okay. I'll add a couple of parts. So as Lauren talked about, there is emergency support available, emergency shelter, emergency clothing, emergency feeding, and we're going to continue as a municipality to provide that to our residents. When it gets to the recovery phase and people are going back into their homes, there are some other steps that are available. The provincial government does have a provincial disaster relief fund, and we will explore whether there's additional financial assistance available through that source. I'm going to suggest that we also go we have a representative from the Insurance Bureau of Canada, and perhaps she could give us some additional advice in terms of what people should be doing in contacting their insurance agencies. But as we go forward in the relief effort, we'll make sure that any of those available sources of support, financial support, are made known to the residents so that you can take full advantage of those, and we'll do whatever we can to support you get that. Maybe if we can go to our IBC rep, I'd appreciate some thoughts from her.
Thank you, Don. Yes, you are correct. With most home insurance or tenant policies, as well as with some business policies, there are provisions in those policies for insured perils, such as an explosion. So what you can, the first thing to do is reach out to your insurance representative and ask about what is called additional living expenses. And what those are payments over and above your regular monthly payments that you've had to incur as a result of either your home is damaged or you've been displaced. So reach out to your insurance broker or agent and get that information. I have also requested that the Insurance Bureau of Canada contact information has been added to the list. Just for folks, it's 844-227-5422, and any of our consumer information officers would be happy to walk you through. If you don't know how to present a claim to your company. But the first thing I would suggest, speak to your insurance professional, find out exactly what coverage is available to you, and start that claims process.
Thank you.
Anne-Marie, before we leave you here, Billy would like to know, what questions should we be asking our insurance company?
So definitely you would ask your insurance company, what coverage do you have? What are the things that you need to do? The Insurance Bureau of Canada has great resources. So if you go to ibc.ca and click resourcing, there are all sorts of tools and sorts of checklists there that can help consumers walk through the claims process in terms of what to do next and that sort of thing. So that's exactly what I speak to your insurance professional and check the IBC's resources website.
Staying with you, Anne-Marie, people are concerned that one, they shouldn't have to be using their own insurance, and two, by putting in a claim, that it will end up hurting them and they'll end up having to pay higher rates after the fact. Is that something you might be able to speak to?
Sure. In the majority of cases, one home insurance claim typically won't affect your rate, especially in a case like this. Things that might affect an insurance rate are, in some cases, things that could have been avoided or what else would affect? Frequency of claim. So if someone is claiming the same thing multiple times, that person could end up seeing a result in their rate. But typically, one insurance claim will not impact your rate.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. So Darlene would like to know, why don't we put detectors in other buildings and let people go home? I'm not sure if that's something Dawn or Chief or Jennifer might be able to provide some information on.
I can start off with this one. So the evacuation zone was first of all put in place on Thursday evening after the explosion. It was then amended with the advice of our experts and engineers. And then earlier this week, we redefined the evacuation zone to what it is now. And that was on the advice of the technical advisory group, which is formed of the hazmat team, the engineers, and the provincial advisors. So right now, the evacuation zone is there whilst we try and work out the source of the gas. And I can see the questions about people asking, when can we go back and why can't we do that? I'll say this again, we still do not know what the source of the gas is. People are saying there's no gas readings. That's correct. But we're beginning to see this pattern where the gas comes in very large quantities at pressure and then stops as quickly as it came. Completely unpredictable. And it's very, very difficult to manage in terms of a community safety response. But whilst the work is taking place on site to try and find the source of the leak, we have put this perimeter in place to keep people safe and to give us the room to be able to work within the zone and to allow the engineers to come in. You will see that there is equipment on site currently dealing with some of the debris and the investigation. We had to get that done this week. The Office of the Fire Marshal is investigating this and looking at some of the other questions. All aspects of the response and the cause of the explosion are currently being investigated. So I hope that provides some insight. But the main point is, right now, we just do not know. We do not know what is causing the danger or when it will be safe.
If I could add a little bit more insight that some of the technical folks have shared with us, building on Chris's point, the explosion that we had on Thursday, everybody saw how, there's that explosive force above the surface. What we don't know also is what happened to that explosion below ground level. There could have been a change in some of the pathways that had the gas go into the 15 Erie Street North property. That could have changed the situation geologically so that now the gas is going someplace else. So trying to figure out where you need to put gas monitoring, how that's going to take place, that really is going to be a systematic process. And there is going to be an expectation that we'll have to have some additional gas monitoring in the area. But that hasn't begun yet. It really had to wait until the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office completed their investigation, and they cleared the scene last night. So that's what's going to take place over the next couple of days. And again, as soon as we're in a position to know when it's safe, we'd be happy to let people in, but we really don't know right now, and it's not something we can easily predict.
Thank you. We've had a couple questions online on Facebook, and I'll direct this question possibly to you, Chief Case. They want to know, why was the hydro still on in the Pogue prior to the explosion when it was known source of gas being emitted? Are you able to comment?
I am. So we received the call and the crew arrived on scene around 10 minutes after the call and immediately evacuated the block in question as we've done in the past. So that would be the block with the former Pogue building and the motel. We didn't allow anybody on site to start doing hydro disconnections because that's a source of ignition. We were waiting for the hazmat team to arrive and we were assembling the team that could then begin to deal with the incident the same way that we've dealt with it on 2 previous occasions. The crews then began to extend the evacuation, and at that point is when the explosion took place. That's pretty much all I can say right now about that matter because it is all under investigation.
Thank you, Chief. So we had a question that was submitted ahead by David, but it's also similar to a question that has been submitted by Howard on Facebook. So the question is, I've looked at old drill logs and abandoned wells in Wheatley. From the point of explosion, there's 4 more abandoned well sites within 1 block radius. I would like to know how big of a pocket of gas or oil we are sitting on. Are all these wells under the town all connected to the same pocket? If so, what's the plan to make sure that they are all capped and sealed or fixed before another one is set to go off.
So we have, starting in June, we did have conversations with some of Jennifer's team at the time called Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. And they were able to provide records of where there was abandoned gas wells. There are many other wells that may or may not have been recorded at that time, but we are aware of some, and that's certainly where some of the investigation would begin. But there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of gas wells across southwestern Ontario, and certainly many in our area. So when we're going through this and being systematic, we'll start, I'm expecting that the technical experts will want to start with the ones that they think are most probable risk, and then they'll work through. But again, a gas well alone is not, we're not saying right now, we can't say, we don't have the evidence to say it's definitely a gas well. So, but the records are being used. Thomas Kelly a few moments ago asked if there was any other knowledge or pictures or any other evidence. We were aware that there was another explosion on the block in the 1930s. There was some reports that we've heard, the past week that something else occurred in the 1990s. We're trying to get people that actually have some details about that will help guide the investigation. Any local knowledge would be appreciated. So that's why Thomas was reaching out and seeing if people could share that information. So it's one thing for people to say, I've heard about it. It's another thing to say, I was there, or I knew about it. Myself or one of my family members worked on it. So we're trying to track those down, and then it's going to be the technical experts that will be charged with going out and doing that additional work. I'd say one other thing is the records that were done for the gas wells that were drilled in the late 1800s. Our record that we saw said that there was one gas well in the proximity of the property that blew up. It was drilled in 1896 and another one in 1897. Those records indicate that the records are only good within 200 yards. So if you draw a 200-yard radius around where the site of the explosion was, that's a good part of downtown Wheatley. So we're not going to, we've got to be, we're trying to find the best place to, focus the investigations, and that's what the technical experts have asked for. Any information that can help guide that. Jennifer, I'm not sure if there's anything else you'd like to add about the gas well piece.
Yeah, I think, Don, you've done a really great job of answering the question. Maybe just to add, as you said, there were some documented wells. That is the work of the technical experts now, is to determine what is under the ground. It is challenging to locate old wells in a built-up environment like Wheatley. It can be a challenging exercise, and that's why we are relying on that technical expertise. I do, as Don said, I do expect that they will be reaching out locally. They will leverage local knowledge. They're working with other industry experts in Ontario who know the situation well. And they'll be collecting as much information as they can to give them as much detail as they can about those old gas wells. But again, we don't know yet that is the source. So until they narrow down those pathways, everything's on the table, and they will be looking very closely at all potential sources.
Thank you, Jennifer. This question again is for you, Don. So a few questions that have been submitted and one from Autumn on Facebook. Looks like we just need some clarification as to the situation. He was saying if the gas suddenly builds up massive waves, that doesn't sound like natural gas buildup. Is Enbridge involved in the process for looking for the source? Could the gas be coming from a faulty gas line and pipeline? So maybe you could just go back to the beginning of the situation and explain what is known, whether it's natural gas from a pipeline versus the hydrogen sulfate piece.
Yeah, I'll a shout out to our friends with Enbridge. They were immediately on site in June and provided the technical advice that they could offer, and they did do a thorough review of their gas pipes in the area, and they were able to confirm that it was not their gas pipes leaking, and the gas testing that we've done subsequently confirmed that it was hydrogen sulfide gas. It was not a gas that was part of the natural gas program. I'm not sure if Mr. Kelly would like to add some additional pieces.
I would just like to add that Enbridge has been really integrated in this entire process from the beginning, and they are now part of our technical advisory group as well. So we have daily meetings to discuss strategies and next steps, and they are absolutely part of that as well.
But it has, that's one of the things that Chief Case talked about a few minutes ago, is when the gas has arrived, it's been under extremely high pressure, and it's also been quite unpredictable in terms of when it arrives and then all of a sudden it'll stop. So there are other conditions other than coming out of a pipe where that could occur, and that's part of what we're trying to figure out. It's a challenge, that's for sure.
Thank you, Don. This next question I'll ask the chief to please answer. On Facebook, question is, so why did it take an explosion for the hazmat team to show up? Why weren't they there when the gas showed up? It was a 2-hour difference.
Thank you. So on the previous two occasions, Chatham Kent does not have a hazardous materials team. We have arrangements with the province that we can call upon provincial assistance for that high level of technical ability from a hazmat team. And the Windsor hazmat team is a level 3 hazmat team. They arrived on site after the first gas was detected. We called them to the second detection, and the samples were taken so that we could actually get our colleagues from IES to get some analysis done to try and work out what the source of the gas was. And as soon as the alarm started to actuate on Thursday evening, the first call that went out was for the hazmat team to attend. But they are attending from Windsor, and they arrived after the explosion. In the meantime, we have crews who are using our gas detection equipment, who are beginning to do perimeter sampling and looking for the gas whilst they were waiting for the hazmat team to come.
So since June, we've had most of the time there's been an eruption of gas on June the 2nd, and then again on the 19th of July, and again last week. But for most of that time, we've had 24 hours a day, 7-day-a-week gas monitoring, and there were 0 readings. So that's again part of the mystery and the difficulty. The provincial asset could not be just kept here for 3 months. What we were challenged to do was to put in place other types of gas monitoring systems that could be linked with our EMS system, so that if there was gas detected, we'd be able to mobilize and get people out of harm's way. So that's the reason why the hazmat team could not be there, for 3 months. We just don't have that type of resource in Ontario.
So this might be another one for you, Don. Steve from Facebook states, this started 3 months ago. Why did we not have an emergency plan and some notification of potential issues? Why were residents not brought up to speed so that they could have bags packed and some preparation for evacuation?
So I'll say that I think residents were, in hindsight, you always, challenge yourself and say, could you have done better? But when we had the event in June, not only were there a number of notices provided, but we also had a meeting like this. We were very clear that we had at that time not identified the source of the gas, and that we could not stand in front of the community and say that things are safe. We said there's been no gas detected for over 3 weeks. And based on the expert advice we've received at the time, they said, it may never come back. So we had people out of their businesses and their homes, and we were really sitting on one event where there was a gas detection, and then over 3 weeks where there was nothing detected when we were doing that 24 hours a day. So that's part of the challenge that we've had. But at that time, we also encouraged people to look at gas monitoring equipment. We had set things up at the arena so people could get information about gas monitoring and detection. We were promoting our personal preparedness. I can tell you that on the second event, we tried to double down with the communications to the community. My colleagues initiated a number of outreaches, and including the distribution of daily messages. And we have tried to do everything we can to try and increase the amount of information going out to the public about emergency preparedness and what people should do. Most importantly, if they smell the gas, they should clear the area and call 911. So again, there's lots of disruption to our community, but the thing we're still celebrating is the evacuation process and the gas monitoring did result in our being able to save lives, and that's to the credit of the team that was there. The gas monitoring has been in place since June, and we have been delivering that message about the safety issue. And you've heard several times today about the precautions we're taking to try and ensure public safety. The balancing act we're trying to do is, on the best advice we have, what's going to be safe for our community? How do we move forward so that this is not going to be occurring again? And we're trying to do everything we can to identify that. But certainly the efforts have been there to try and gain technical expertise and advice in terms of how we can identify the source.
Thanks, Don. While I still have you here, several questions people were asking: will additional gas monitors be added? And will other buildings outside of the initial blast area, will they be inspected as well?
We have not gotten that plan or the safety plan from the experts. We certainly took those precautions previously. Before people went back into their homes, there was firefighters were present and they had gas monitors. Before they went into the homes, we made sure that there were no gas readings inside the homes. I'm expecting that we would have a similar approach in terms of precautions to make sure our residents are going back in, but we really are looking for the technical experts to give us advice. We've said before, we have very limited knowledge about dealing with hydrogen sulfide gas and what needs to take place. Based on the experience where the explosion took place, properties that have basements are going to be, a particular interest because they're closer to a potential source. And so I expect that there will be some, consideration of gas detection equipment, not only at the initial outset, but where would we recommend you have gas detection equipment on an ongoing basis? It's another level of safety if you have that in your home.
Thank you, Don. I'm going to bring up our evacuation map. Zafar on Facebook would like to know, will you be redefining the evacuation map soon? I'm not sure, perhaps Chris Case, you have some comments, or maybe Thomas Kelly as well.
I'll start off. So this is the current evacuation map. So the advisory group the technical advisory group is formed of engineers, hazmat advisors, and hygienists, and we are currently working with this group to try and work out what our next steps will be. Last week was very much about making the scene safe and getting the Office of the Fire Marshal in. So the Office of the Fire Marshal, they sent out engineers, investigators, and hazmat officers, and they've been on scene from the explosion till last night. So they spent 7 days on scene, actually investigating the cause of the explosion, because that's a very important piece of work that not only has to be done by law, but it also gives us an indication of what could be happening. At the same time, our colleagues from the ministry have been working to provide us this technical support, and this map was the agreed map by that group of advisors. Our expert group have come up with this map. So to answer the questions about could this map change, yes, it could. Absolutely. It could get smaller, it could get bigger. Again, at this moment, we don't know. Kristen's asked a very direct question about what is actually being done. Well, what is being done right now is, now that we've finished the investigation, we're going to hand over now, and we've got to start investigating the source of the gas. We've actually got to start looking where this gas is coming from. And that could be weeks or months. We simply, again, and I hate being in the position where I keep saying I don't know, because it's not very it's not within the nature of a fire chief not to know what's going on. But whilst these engineers are working, they are going to be giving us that guidance about how far we need to be moving, what guidance we should be giving to people outside. But one thing I can tell you right now is that the immediate area around the explosion is surrounded by gas detection equipment. We have hazardous materials officers from Windsor who are on scene 24 hours a day, and if we get an alert on the gas detection, then the emergency response comes down. They're currently based at the library, and we have them stood by again 24 hours a day with paramedics, and then we begin to look at what the problem is. But for now, touch wood, we have not had any gas readings off the immediate area around the explosion. We have had calls from concerned people in the area that they've smelt gas, and we send another emergency response out to immediately look at whether that gas is there. And I think we've had 4 or 5 calls in the past week from people worried about the gas, and the fire crews from Wheatley, who I have to give credit to, have been at their post almost 24 hours a day. They have served their community, their friends, and they have done a tremendous job, and they're still going out and they're still investigating these sources. Not to mention they're still going out, putting fires out, dealing with motor vehicle collisions and running medical calls. So the people of Wheatley should be incredibly proud of their firefighters. So that is what's going on right now. We're in a phase now where we've finished the investigation into the explosion, and we are now continuing the investigation into the source of the gas.
Thank you, Chief. I think you did touch on it, but I'm going to bring Jennifer back, as I believe Jennifer's ministry has had some experience with this. People want to know, for those that are outside of the evacuation or close to it, how can we guarantee their safety? Jennifer, maybe you might be able to talk about this based on some experience that maybe other communities have experienced in the past with similar situations. Oh, we've lost connectivity for Jennifer, so we'll continue on. I'm sure she'll try to get back on with us.
Yeah. I'll give you a preliminary answer. We need to understand what the source of the gas leak is, and then we need to determine if there's a way to mitigate it. And if there is, then we're going to do everything we can to make the community as safe as possible. But right now, there's an unknown risk. So until we actually finish that investigation, I don't think there's going to be a way that we can actually provide a fulsome answer to that question. The steps we've taken right now with the evacuation zone and with the gas monitoring, that has all been directly related to ensuring that the community is safe until we get those answers.
Don, I'll continue with you if I may. Sorry, Jennifer, are you there?
Yeah, my apologies. For some reason, my internet cut out there.
Oh, and we've lost her again. So again, we'll hopefully she'll be able to rejoin us. But Don, a few people had mentioned they're just wondering why they weren't informed about the danger or even about the gas leak the first time it appeared, that no one told them anything, and they live very close to the area. Could you again maybe go over how people can be added to list or how they can be informed? I know that the municipality worked very closely with our media, getting information out there, that things are posted on our Facebook and our website. But could you maybe just explain some additional ways that people can help being maintained and learn more information? I know there is the arena as a source of information as well.
So with respect to the notification of the dangers, we have had multiple interviews, multiple press releases. We've tried to work through. The media has been extraordinarily supportive in getting the message out through, whether it's a print media or radio or our local television feeds. So we have tried to be very upfront and transparent about the risks that have been involved. And that started back in June. We've also had public meetings like this. But what we've tried to do is to also encourage people to, for regular updates, in terms of the type of support and any updates on the operation. We have a landing site on our front page of our website. There's also the distribution through emails. If you don't have access to those services, we'll try and continue to push things out into the media. As it relates to a notification about a specific gas leak or some sort of an emergency, two things. One, people can take some direct action themselves to increase their level of safety by investigating having a hydrogen sulfide gas detector in their home or their business. That gives you immediate indication as to when there's an alert and when you have to take some steps to evacuate the area. Our firefighters and emergency response teams have also been extraordinarily fast. Thursday night, they were on the scene in less than 10 minutes. And they will take immediate steps to try and clear the area. We'd ask for continued support from the public. You know, now that people have seen the explosion, I think that people would all sort of move very, very quickly. But I can say that, you know, after 2 gas detections with no other event, I think people were saying, is this real right now? Do I have to leave? And, you know, thank goodness people did listen to the firefighters and they got out of harm's way. And although we did have 20 people that were treated because of the event, no one lost their life. But really, it's a matter of we've all got personal preparedness activities that we could also take. The fire service has a personal preparedness information. That information will be linked as well, so people can think about how they can prepare their families. Things like having a get and go bag that, you know, near the door, and things like your personal identification papers, some medication, anything that you'd want to be taking with you if you had to leave quickly. The fire services department has a public educator that has a lot of the information as we've been trying to share, but if you haven't already done so, please investigate that. So, Thomas?
Yeah, thanks, Don. In addition to the media communication and the on-site support, I wanted to just remind everyone that we have a subscription service as well. And in order to get on that subscription service, we need your permission that we can send you emails. So anytime there is any news, we are pushing that out to anyone on that service. To get on that service, you simply need to call 311 and provide them with the information. Our customer service rep will be on site, it will be available to take your call, and that will ensure that you get all of the latest releases, any communication from this as well.
Thanks, Thomas.
Yes, thanks, Thomas. Chris, I'll keep you on with us. So people have been asking, should we not be providing gas monitoring systems for individual homes?
After the last emergency, we provided some details if people wanted to get gas detection. But as for if we should be providing them, I'm not sure I can answer that question. I'm still awaiting the analysis of what the risk is so that we can work out if we need to be working beyond the evacuation zone. Right now, the only information I have is that the evacuation zone is safe as defined to me by the technical advisors. Outside of that zone, there is no defined risk as we know it. And I know I sound like a politician, and I apologize for that. And I also apologize to our politicians, but I'm trying to give the information, but without causing alarm. We're giving the answers about what we know right now. And in the coming weeks, we need to know more. That's the real issue we face right now. We need to know more. And we've needed to know more for a little while now, because we're basing our response and our actions and the guidance to the public on the threat as we know it. And that is the challenge we face. But again, I know that we will be having discussions about what support we should be providing to people in the area, and we'll be talking about gas detection. I don't know if Don wants to jump in about whether we should be providing gas detection.
Thomas and I, we're just saying that we are open to having advice provided. I think the issue with an alarm is, if you have a general alarm, the community also needs to know where they should go, depending on the nature of the event. Sometimes people are advised to shelter in place because the nature of the gas is that it's toxic, and depending on where the wind's blowing from and so on, they might say, stay where you are until we give you direction. Sometimes, like in the situation where we had a source detected at the site where there was the explosion, our fire services folks are in a position where they can guide you to get out of harm's way, and they tell you where to go. I don't want to have, a general alarm sounds really good, but then you have to have direction in terms of where to go safely. You don't want people leaving their homes and running into harm's way because they don't know where the gas is. So we have to look through a number of those different activities. We are open to trying to make the community safe and have people feel reassured that they can, go about their daily activities in a manner that's safe and that their families are going to be safe. But as Chris has reiterated a number of times, we need to do our research. We need to get answers to some of these questions before we can develop our response.
Thank you, Don. Chief, Doug would like to know on Facebook, does CK have access to initiate reverse 911 in the event of future emergency events?
Hi, Doug. Yes, we have a system similar to that, but as you know, our dispatch is police fire dispatch. We are currently looking at cataloging those who live around the area, and one of the pieces of work we've been doing for a little while is to work with the Ontario Health Team to try and find out where particularly vulnerable people are. So in the event of an evacuation, we're able to get out and to target those people quickly. Those are some of the lessons that we learned from Erie Shore Drive, to be honest. But as we know, in the event of an emergency, the best way of evacuation is to actually physically attend the home and make sure that people understand the message. You can always get that with a reverse call 911. There's always the question about who got the call. Did they understand the message? Is it being broadcast in a way that people would understand? And one thing that we have found through all of this, and the firefighters at Wheatley have done a tremendous job, is to get to people and to try and get them out of harm's way. And on Thursday night, we were reinforced with Chatham-Kent Police and a large quantity of Ontario provincial police officers, because we've dealt with evacuations in the past, and the flooding in Chatham a few years ago was a good indication. And it's the worst case scenario that you show up and you don't have that much time to get people out. Really, we can't plan an evacuation for this. So right now I'll come back to the answer that we're trying to get some information on the risk so that we know what our actions have to be whilst this work is taking place. But I say again, the advice that I've been given, the only concept that I have right now, is that the map as presented to the group this morning, that is the defined zone that we have to be concerned about at this time.
Thank you, Chief. Several people have asked this question, but the specific question is from Angela on Facebook. It's my understanding that certain businesses were allowed to continue operating from the time of the gas detection until the explosion occurred. Why were these areas not evacuated?
I'm sorry, Amy, could you please repeat the question? I'm sorry, part of that was garbled for me. I didn't actually hear it all.
Apologies. I will state it again. So a few people have asked the same question. It was their understanding that certain businesses were allowed to continue to operate from the time of gas detection until the explosion occurred. I believe they feel from gas detection might be from the first or second incident until the explosion. Why were these areas not evacuated?
Sorry, Chief, I'm going to have to ask you to answer that. I thought people were evacuated. If people continued to operate, then that was not something that was recommended from our perspective. We tried to get everybody out of the area, but the priority was to start in the immediate area around 15 Erie Street. That was the initial block that the evacuation started on. And then we tried to work out where from there. Chief?
No, I thought we'd answered previously, but the crew arrived on scene and immediately evacuated the block because the subject of hydrogen sulfide is it's poisonous as well as explosive. So they were dealing with a number of issues. A busy afternoon, they had the road blocked off. They were awaiting for further resources, and a small crew were out there trying to get the message out. And people were being told, be prepared to evacuate. And that's what was taking place when the explosion happened. All of this is currently under investigation, as you know, so I have to be cautious, but I don't underestimate the commitment or the actions that were taken on the scene by the firefighters. Their actions save lives, and I don't want anyone to be under any misapprehension of that. And the challenge has been throughout all of this is that we put in a full evacuation, the gas disappears, and then people are quite rightfully saying to us, there's no danger. Why can't we go back to our homes? And under our emergency legislation, we can't justify keeping people out of their homes when there is no immediate risk. And we've been saying for 3 months now that the scene is stable, but we do not know the source of the gas. And then the gas returns and we go through it all again. And it's a very, very unique situation. I've never come across it. I don't know many chief officers who have had come across this, where you have this reoccurrence, which is totally unpredictable. And the firefighters have been working throughout the summer to try and keep their community safe. So that's all I can do to try and reinforce that, is that the firefighters on scene did a tremendous job and were evacuating whilst they were waiting for further help to come.
Thank you, Chief. And while I still have you, so several people are wanting to know, for those that maybe have not been evacuated yet, but should we be prepared to evacuate now? What things should a person do that's in Wheatley that might be near the evacuation area? What things could they do, such as having a go bag?
We advise everybody everybody in Chatham Kent to have a mind to what would happen if they have to be evacuated, and that would be a go bag is always a good idea, and we do this through our emergency management work throughout the year. You know, having your belongings and your documents close to hand. There's been some questions asked about allowing people back in. We have accommodated people to get back in to get medications, to get some of their documents, and to get some of their pets, because people evacuated without their pets. And every time we do that, we have to take a crew away from the emergency response to do the gas detection and make sure that is being done safely. But I would say to anybody, always be mindful of what would happen if we have to leave our home. And this isn't about just about the gas situation in Wheatley. This is about the dangers of a fire, a tornado, or all the other things that we have to deal with every day. So always be mindful about how would you get your family out. We spend a lot of time talking about how you're going to get out in the event of a fire. Well, you know, it's always worth putting your mind to what would we do if we had to leave our home with 10 or 20 minutes notice, and what would we need to take? And there's lots of resources available on our website, and we'll make sure that was posted.
Thank you, Chief. So I'm going to bring Jennifer back in. I know she's having some technical difficulties still, but I know that there's been several questions that I think the ministry would be able to answer. So I'm going to ask you a few of them in a row. People of Wheatley and Chatham Kent want to know who would be responsible for the cost associated with the now further investigation and what those findings may find. Dawn or Jennifer, please.
Yeah, so hopefully you can hear me. So, and I believe the question was about costs. So we may have answered this a little bit earlier, but I can reiterate again. So the ministry is here to support the efforts of the municipality by providing that technical advice and information and paying for that support to be at the disposal of the municipality. We've also in the past been providing that funding support not only to monitor the gas, and we will continue to do that as we go forward as well, but it's really this work to determine the source of the leak cause of the explosion that we're focused on now, and we'll continue to support the municipality to do that, to ensure that the safety of the community as we move forward. I think once we have a better understanding of what that source is, then again we will work with the municipality then to determine next steps and what costs would be associated with those next steps.
So Jennifer, I understand that there's a lot of unknowns when you're dealing with this type of issue, and you talked about needing the investigation to continue before you can actually determine next steps. But do you have based on previous projects, is there a possible timeline that you might have for when you will know what those next steps might be? And also, you know, when people might be able to get back into their homes?
So again, thanks for the question. And like I think the chief said a few minutes ago, I wish that I could, provide everybody the answers that you're looking for today. This is still, there is still a lot of work to do to determine that source. And until we know that source of the gas, or if it could come back, we'll continue to work closely with those experts to be able to identify that source. But at this point, there is no timeline associated with that. It is a complex situation, as I've mentioned a few times. It is under the core of the downtown of your municipality. There are many, many different factors that we need to take into consideration. And the chief and Don have both talked about the technical advisory team that we have on site. There's a lot of different players around that team that are also bringing different levels of expertise, so that the consultants that we have prepared will be taking all that information and working towards that identification of the plan in terms of next steps. So no solid timeline, but as soon as we know more, we will share more with you.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. We're running out of time now, but those that are listening, I want to thank you for your participation this morning. We have learned a lot here as administration. We know that we have to strive to do better in our communications. We're always looking for opportunities of how better to improve. If you could drop us a message on things that you think, how we can disseminate the information better to you, we would appreciate that. If you found that this session was informative, please let us know, and we will hopefully be able to do more of these in the future as the investigation continues and learn more. And hopefully Jennifer will be able to join us again, or someone else from her area. So again, I wish to thank
Amy, a comment before we log off, please.
Yeah. I just wanted to, before I let yourself and our mayor have the final words, I wanted to thank those that are participating with us: Councillor Melissa Harrigan, Fire Chief Case, General Manager April and Thomas, and thank you so much to Anne Marie from the Insurance Bureau, Jeff Wilkins from our Legal Service Clinic, and especially Lauren Anderson and Kim Grant. Thank you so much. I will now, Don, if you and the mayor would like closing comments.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. I echo the thanks for people and also the residents that are participating. I'm very concerned that there may be some additional questions that you did not have answered today. Thomas has provided some information. If people write their emails or call them, you can call them into 311, or the email address that Thomas is going to share with you
is ck311@chatham-kent.ca. I'll just repeat that. ck311@chatham-kent.ca. Thank you.
Yeah, if you have any questions like that, please reach out to the municipality. We've also got regular contacts for people that have been evacuated with your caseworkers. We'll put on the website the information that Lauren and Kimberly shared with us about some of the efforts going on to provide the support. The community is doing a phenomenal job of supporting each other, and it's an incredibly tough time, but we're going to get through this together. And with that, I will turn it over to the mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. We need to have another one of these events. I know, Amy, you mentioned we'll look at it. I think it's very important that we do this, even if one person's listening to it. I think it's a great communication device. I just want to end this with my thank you so much for everybody who's been involved with this relief effort. We've literally had hundreds of citizens step up. We've had the first responders, municipal employees helping with housing and infrastructure, the community group stepping up, the GoFundMe page. We've had a huge outpouring of support. Lauren just handed me over saying we've raised over $38,000 so far to date. That's what makes Chatham-Kent so great, is that we step up when we need to, and Chatham-Kent is one of the best places in this country to live. And Wheatley is an amazing community. I am confident we're going to come out of this. Wheatley's going to be a stronger place, even a better place to live. But we need, from a citizen's perspective, organizations, businesses, the municipality is part of the solution. The province is part of the solution. The federal government is part of the solution. We need to come together as a country, as a province, as a community to rebuild. And I know that Melissa and Mark have been out there big time helping out, and I want everyone listening to know that council is fully behind this, and we're doing everything we possibly can as a municipality to get through this situation. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we will be we'll have you on another of these shortly. Thank you very much.
Mayor, thank you, Mayor. And April?
Thanks, Amy. It's hard to follow the mayor, and certainly thanks, Mayor Caniff, for those words. I just want to remind everybody out there that we have case managers on site at the arena from 10 until 2, today, tomorrow, and Monday. So if anyone is in need of any emergency items, please come to the arena, and our team there will assist you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.